Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of congregational humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. Thank you for joining us.
I'll begin sharing some news which you might not have heard. Unitarian Universalist Association President, Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt, honored Minnesota UUs with the President's Award for volunteer service to the UUA, and this was announced at the General Assembly this summer. We've earned this because, quote, UUs in Minnesota powerfully and faithfully manifested our values and continue to do so, end quote. This is an honor and something we can be proud of, and months of stress can be difficult to heal. This is why self-care is so important. Whenever I speak about self-care, I like to begin with a simple observation. Most of us are remarkably good at taking care of other people. We remember birthdays, we volunteer, we check on neighbors, we help aging parents, we join committees, we comfort friends, we show up for our children, our partners, our communities, and sometimes even complete strangers. And yet, somewhere along the way, many of us quietly convince ourselves that our own well-being can wait. We tell ourselves, I'll rest when things calm down. I'll exercise when life isn't so busy. I'll deal with my stress after I finish taking care of everyone else. The problem is, life rarely slows down on its own. There is always another responsibility, another email, another news story, another committee, another family concern, another reason to postpone caring for ourselves. So today, I'd like to invite us to think about self-care a little differently, not as a luxury, not as something we earn, not as an occasional reward, but as one of the most responsible things we can do. As Karen explained, International Self-Care Day is this week, celebrated every July 24. It reminds us that self-care is something we practice 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, through hundreds of small decisions that shape our health and our lives. Now, many people hear self-care and picture bubble baths or spa days or vacations. Those certainly can be enjoyable, but real self-care is much deeper, and it can be routine. It's getting enough sleep, taking a walk, eating nourishing food, laughing with a friend, setting a healthy boundary, turning off the news for an evening, taking a deep breath before reacting and asking for help maybe, offering ourselves the same kindness we so freely offer others. As a therapist, I've spent years listening to people's stories, and I have heard firsthand stories of incredible resilience. Our challenges and difficulties may vary, but the ability to be resilient is in all of us, even if at times it doesn't feel that way. And I've learned something that continues to move me. The people who struggle the most are often the people who care the most. Sometimes it's the sensitivity or empathy they hear or experience a problem. Sometimes it's a deep understanding of the problem and how hard the path to a solution is. They think a lot about family and community, about justice, about the environment, about history, and the future, about making life better for others. Their compassion is one of their greatest strengths, but compassion without rest and renewal eventually becomes exhaustion. So self-care isn't an escape from responsibility. It's what makes responsibility and care sustainable. I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about another word that sometimes makes people uncomfortable: hope. Hope has gotten a bad reputation. Sometimes people hear the word and think it means pretending everything's fine. That's not it. Hope isn't denial. Hope isn't wishful thinking. Hope isn't putting on a smile when your heart is hurting. The hope I'm talking about is grounded in the here and now. It's realistic. It's courageous. We just heard the words of Viktor Frankl, and he's one of the people who shaped my understanding of hope. Frankl experienced unimaginable suffering in the concentration camps. Yet he noticed something extraordinary. Even when people could not control what happened to them, they could still choose how they responded. That idea has enormous power. Hope isn't waiting for circumstances to change. Hope is deciding that your values will guide your next step, even while circumstances remain uncertain. That idea has enormous power. Hope isn't waiting for circumstances to change. Hope is deciding that your values will guide your next step, even if circumstances remain uncertain. Optimism says, everything will work out. Hope says, I don't know how this ends, but I know who I want to be while I'm living through it. Hope says, I don't know how this ends, but I know who I want to be while I'm living through it. In practice, in our day-to-day lives, hope can mean using healthy thinking. Healthy thinking doesn't ignore reality. It holds reality and possibility at the same time. Instead of saying, everything is falling apart, we might say, there are things happening that deeply concern me, and there are still meaningful actions I can take today. That shift doesn't erase the problem, but it reminds us that we are not powerless. We acknowledge reality honestly while choosing to live according to our values. That, to me, is humanist, and it's a much more durable kind of hope. So what happens when a person consistently practices hopeful and healthy thinking? It changes our brains. I've seen this. One of the central ideas of cognitive behavioral therapy is that the brain becomes stronger in whatever it repeatedly practices. If we repeatedly practice fear, the brain becomes better at finding danger. If we repeatedly rehearse worst-case scenarios, the brain becomes better at expecting them. This isn't weakness, it's biology. Our brains evolved to protect us. But in today's world, many of us are exposed to a steady stream of upsetting information. Before we finish processing one crisis, another one appears. Eventually, our nervous system begins acting as though every day is an emergency. Our thoughts become more rigid, our muscles stay tense, our breathing becomes shallow, our stress hormones remain elevated. They don't get a break. And so then over time, our bodies pay the price. So using hopeful or forward thinking, we can interrupt that cycle. Not by pretending everything is wonderful, but by gently asking, what is still true? What small choice can I make today? How can I live my values in this moment? Every time we practice those questions, instead of negative or jaded thinking becoming stronger, we strengthen different neural pathways. We teach our brains that uncertainty is not the same as helplessness, that there is still meaning, still purpose, still connection, still choice. That is how resilience grows. And not all at once. It's one thought, one decision, one day at a time. There's another reason I care so deeply about self-care. It's your heart, and I mean that both emotionally and physically. Chronic stress doesn't stay in our minds, it affects our bodies. When we live under constant stress, our nervous system stays activated, as I just mentioned. Our resting heart rate can remain higher than it should. Blood pressure may increase, sleep becomes more difficult. Our bodies rarely receive the message that it is safe to rest. Over years, even over months, that constant activation increases the risk of serious health problems. As a therapist, as someone who cares deeply about this community, I don't want that for any of us. I don't want us to lose good people because they've spent years caring more than any one heart should carry. We need each other. We need your compassion, your creativity, your wisdom, your laughter, your presence. Taking care of yourself isn't stepping away from your community. It's one of the ways you continue serving it. And I want to emphasize, community is part of resilience. When we surround ourselves with people who share our values or understand our experiences, we find reassurance that we are part of something bigger and more powerful than a single person on their own. A person can hold on to the belief that small actions combined with hundreds, if not thousands, of other like-minded people can have impact. We saw this right here in Minneapolis this January. For me, that really kept hope alive. So I'd like to leave you with a simple invitation. You don't need to change your whole life tomorrow. Instead, ask yourself one question. What is one small act of kindness I can offer myself today? Maybe it's going to bed earlier. Maybe it's calling someone you love. Maybe it's saying no to something that drains you. Maybe it's sitting quietly for 5 minutes and simply breathing. Maybe it's taking a walk without your phone, especially outdoors. There's something quietly healing about walking outdoors. As we notice the trees, the birds, the changing seasons, or simply the fresh air, we're gently reminded that life continues, beauty still exists, and we don't have to carry the weight of the world alone. Small acts matter because they accumulate. They shape our health. They strengthen our resilience. And they remind us that we are worthy of the same care we so willingly offer others. I'll close with this thought. Self-care is not about becoming less available to the world. It's about becoming more fully present in it. When we care for ourselves, we don't diminish our capacity to love. We expand it. We become better friends, better partners, better parents, better neighbors, better citizens, and perhaps most importantly, we become gentler with ourselves. On this International Self-Care Day this week, my hope is that each of us leaves with one simple commitment: to treat ourselves with the same compassion we hope to bring to everyone else. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. You can find much more about humanism and what's happening at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis by visiting our website at firstunitarian.org.